do when I'm on scene, I'll be assuming Caroline Street Command. I got a 2.5-story wood occupied multiple dwelling. I got heavy fire from the second floor Charlie side. I have an exposure on the Delta side. We have one line stretch not in operation yet. Primary searches are underway. Status of the fire is doubtful. One passing command. I'm on the first line. Service speed advised. We're on scene. 2-story wood frame. I got heavy fire from the Alpha side.
Welcome back, fans of the Volley Chief. New show this week, reaching across the country. I think you definitely the farthest west we've had yet. So Captain Jake Monday coming all the way from the Summers Fire Department in Summers, Montana. I've never been to Montana. The most I know about it is that Vaselli wanted to move to Montana and hunt for the Red October before he was shot. So that's my knowledge of Montana.
There we go.
Yeah, and but I'm going to let Jake introduce himself. So Jake, go ahead, tell us a little bit about you, your department, where you're from, all that.
Sounds good. So I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I moved out to Montana 9 years ago almost. When I was in Illinois, I got a degree in fire science and emergency medical services. I got my EMT basic license and wanted to be a full-time firefighter. Moved out here with my wife and realized that most of the departments out here are all volunteer. So I was like, okay, let's get a real job and let's help out when I can. So I've been on the department for 4 years at the end of April. And I was recently promoted to captain last year in October. We have 3 captains on staff, 2 chiefs, and a bunch of firefighters. So we are a class 5 ICS rating, or ISO rating, excuse me. We serve around 4,700 people in our district. We have the second largest district in the county. And last year we responded to 345 calls.
Now, when you say largest, like what?
We're busy, but we're not too busy. Wouldn't know the square mileage off the top of my head. Yeah, so like we have a very diverse district. So we go north all the way to Kalispell, Montana, south all the way to the Lake County district, and then west and east. I'd say a good chunk of our district is national initial attack for any wildland fire that starts up there. So we get it all: structure protection, structure tactics, MVAs, wildland interface, urban interface, water rescues.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm
the whole gamut.
So in my little bubble here in Connecticut, we're densely populated little cities. So Derby's 5 square miles, we're about almost 15,000 people in it, and it's amazing because everybody else is worried about like wildland that keeps coming up over and over again. And it's like if we had like a brush fire in our area and it was more than like an acre, it's like we're all going to die. And I find it funny because as I'm I have a gentleman from Texas, from North Dakota, and it's like you guys, that is your big concern are larger wildland fires. Where I don't have the large wildland to even be on fire. So a couple summers ago, we actually went mutual aid, probably about 20 minutes, a half hour away for a large brush fire, and like we were like okay, we were joking on the way there, like, do we get those tinfoil things? Like, how does this work? Like, we don't do this in our part of the country. So, so Jake, you've got 4 years on now. You're a captain. Do you command a company, a single station? Like, what is your?
Right. So we have 2 stations. We have our main station in Summers, right in downtown, and then we have a satellite station about 8 minutes south of us in Lakeside. So technically we are Summers, Lakeside, Lower Valley, and we have an interagency meeting, like an agreement with South Kalispell. So we help them out. And then south of our border, Rollins. So we can go mutual aid or we can stay in our own district, a whole bunch. But yeah, what was the rest of that question? I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, no problem. Are you as a captain, are you in charge of a specific company or station or?
Right. Okay. So all three of our captains on the department are out of the summer station. Um, However, we did break it down into a chain of command. So we do have 5 to 7 firefighters underneath us, where if they need anything, they'd come to us and we'd present it to the chief, just like ICS. Um, but yeah, I think we set it up this way where most of our responders come out of summers. Right now, we only have 2 to 3 people in Lakeside. So they'll show up when they can, but most of our response is out of our summer station. So one day you'll have all three of our captains show up, or you'll just have one of us. So then the white helmets can go ahead and take command of the scene or whatever they need to do, and then we can be team lead or operations.
Okay, now so you have lieutenants under you, or just
We do
because I
not.
know, so see another oddity as you get out of the Northeast and in this side of the
Mhm.
country, for us, there's more layers, right? We have
Right.
lieutenants than captains. So and actually really unique, like in and around the DC area, they actually have sergeants, lieutenants, and captains.
Right. Yeah.
So like, yeah, so I keep telling everyone what I'm really, really starting to enjoy about doing this is that how different things are, but then bringing it back
Mhm.
to how the same they are. And it's
Right.
like, you again, your bigger concerns are brush fires. You guys, with we were joking. One of the other guests I had, we had a 5-minute conversation about tankers, and before I realized he was
Right.
talking about aircraft, because for us, tankers are ground vehicles,
Right.
or even rescues. Rescues being an ambulance or a medic unit. For us, rescues are heavy rescue vehicles. So
Right.
it's one of those cultural differences that you guys don't have lieutenants, but we do.
Right.
So are you like the rest of the nation? Are you having, those volunteer problems? Is there a lot more members years ago? Are you seeing that die off of membership?
I wouldn't say the die off of membership. Right now we have roughly 24 rostered members. So we have a solid group. It's just really hard to get that during the week, during the day call response, because we're volunteer. All of us have jobs. Sometimes we'll get lucky and 3 or 4 of us will be off that day and we'll strike a structure fire or a car wreck and we'll have a good response. But a lot of the time it's our chief and 1 or 2 guys responding. And then some guys they have flexibility with their jobs where their boss is like, hey, you have a big car wreck and 2 people are there, you can leave and go take care of it. It's a tight knit community out here. So a lot of people are more generous with letting us leave work to try to cover our area. Because life and safety first, right?
Right. That's always a big thing. I mean, coming from the heyday of the volunteer fire department around here back in the early 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, when this was still industrial, the factories actually had fire alarm boxes in it. So when there was a call, the factory would let the workers walk across the street to the firehouse or go up, and like you said, it
Right.
used to be that sense of community where a boss didn't mind letting someone leave work for the half hour or so because the community needed you. And
Right.
also the other problem we have around here now is that the world has shrunk so much, nobody works in town anymore. And we don't have as much as you say, oh wow, there's 15,000 people here and there's only 4,000 people in your town. I'll bet most people work and live in a very close proximity.
Right.
We're here, we've now, we're commuting to Greenwich, to Stamford, to New York City. So you're losing that people working in town.
Right. That's the funny thing about our department. It's right in downtown Summer. So there's a couple of us that live in that area. So like my response, like if I'm at home, my response time to the hall is like 25 seconds. And other people, it's like 8 to 10 minutes. So
now walk me through, how do you guys do like training? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Do you like, how does all that play out?
So we do weekly trainings on Tuesday nights from 7 to 9. And then during open burn season, we schedule like wildland trainings on the weekends. So we'll do burn piles and brush piles and burn fields for people. Sometimes we're lucky enough to get a donation. Sometimes it's a thank you and here's some pizza, but we do a lot of training. I think that's something to be proud of for our department. Like, we have 2 training officers. They do great. They come prepared with the material, or they reach out to some of the officers or some of the chiefs and say, hey, this is our idea, help us make it come true. And they do a good job. So
That's good. Yeah. Cause I mean, it's, it's all about training and, oddities of the volunteer fire department versus career departments. The volunteers usually, their training schedule is a little bit more, I'd say, set and adhered to, where as in a paid department, there's sometimes where the day unfolds where, you go into work, the next thing you know, you got to do a couple smoke alarm surveys, you got a problem with the rig, you got to go to the shop. And before you know it, the shift has gotten away from you and you're trying to reel it back to train. But because the volunteer schedule sets that we will train once a week from this time to this time, it gives you a little bit of an advantage. And I assume, like the rest of us, you're doing, jack of all trade, master of none. You're doing the extrication stuff, you're doing rope stuff, you're doing water stuff, you're doing,
right.
like us,
Yeah,
like
so,
us, you got winter, so you got to do some ice rescue and some stuff like that.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah. So, where was I going to go with that? We, what we've done the last couple of years is we'll break down our call volume and we'll pick like the top 5 call responses. And then that's our bread and butter. And we'll train heavily on those 5. Like our biggest thing out here is motor vehicle accidents. I think we had 100 of them last year out of our 340. So that's our bread and butter. And then wildland interface, false alarms, structure fires. I think we had 7 to 10 last year.
See, it's one thing I try to explain. So take your 4-gas meter, right? And I say to people, like, look at your 4-gas meter. How well do you know it? And, a lot of people like, and it's like, do you realize you're going to use that gas meter more than you're going to stretch hose? That gas meter is probably one of the most, used pieces of equipment. And it's like, look back, you use the gas, the odor gas calls, CO alarms, stuff like that. You're using your meters more than you're using your thermal imaging camera. And yet our priority level of training on a meter is, down towards the bottom of the rung because it's hazmat. Everyone hates hazmat. Hazmat's boring.
Right.
But like you said, if you look at your numbers, you're using that meter more than you're stretching a line, more than you're using your tick, more than you're using your extrication equipment.
Right. Yeah. Another thing that I think our department's doing well on is, like I said earlier, we're very focused on training, and same thing with our board. So our administrators for the district, if we have an idea, hey, we want to get this, they're like, okay, well, give me 5 quotes and we'll see what we can do with the price. So last year we were able to get a forcible entry door prop. So we got that from Iowa American Rescue, I believe. It's actually a cool concept. It's they give you all the brackets and everything. You just get a door and 8x12 lumber, and you just build it and then drill it all together, and you have a forcible door prop. So we've used that a whole bunch. We have a lot of industrial buildings here that have the solid steel doors with push bars. So we're working on that.
What's about your annual budget?
I think we get $200,000 from the state, but for the firefighters, our annual budget, I think, is around 20,000 for like training or equipment, stuff like that. And then the district will take care of vehicle maintenance and all that cost.
Okay, so not bad. I mean, you're able to like you said, you're able to purchase some equipment and get some training and stuff out of it, which is what anyone wants. And I think that's, to me, that's a huge way to keep members, right?
For sure.
So we, the entire time that I was running the zoo, we never denied anybody to go take training. If you want to go and around us, we're because we're urban, we're stuck in the middle of New York and Boston and some of the bigger cities around here. The training opportunities, off the top of my head, within earshot of us, there's about 5 or 6 private companies in addition to the State Fire Academy that are providing training, and that's a huge way to get buy-in and keep members around, is to
Right.
allow them to go take all that training. I mean, you
Mhm.
know, things you're not supposed to say out loud as a paid guy and a volunteer. It's easier for me to take outside training as a volunteer than it is through my paid job. You
Right.
know, if I see a class that I want to take, the process to do it, it's like, if you want to take it through the volunteer side, usually you just call up and say, hey, I'm going to go take this class. They say, okay, no problem, send us the bill. And if on the paid side, it's a lot more involved, right? There's more steps,
Right.
there's more. And I tell people that I actually, you know a lot of guys who you'll go take classes and you're like, oh, what department are you with? And you'll say, oh, I'm here with so-and-so volunteer fire department. And then
Right.
about 15 minutes into the class, they'll say, oh, but I'm also a paid fireman here, but the volunteer department is the one that's sending me to it.
Right.
And
Yep.
it's great buy-in. It's a great way to keep membership, that training aspect. Let them go take it. Now, do you guys have like regional fire schools, or is it the state fire school? Like Connecticut has the
So
Connecticut Fire Academy, and then it
right.
subs out to like regional schools. We don't have counties in Connecticut, right? Connecticut's so small,
Right.
we actually don't have county governments. So the schools are broken up into like regional areas. So
Okay.
what do you guys do?
So we have like I believe there's a Montana State like fire academy down in Helena. But there are some local departments up here that are paid that will host like a firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and a CPAT. Currently, we don't require any of our members to have firefighter 1 or 2. We do all in-house training. But if there's a class that someone wants to take, we just bring it up, and if it's affordable and something that applies, then yeah, we'll definitely be interested in doing that. My assistant chief is on the arson investigation task force here. So he's like, hey, does anybody want to take arson classes? Here's the website. Here's some online classes. So I've been trying to knock out some of those, but it takes a while. It's like a
So
4-hour video and then a 100-question test. And
I was gonna say, so now you have your degree and you said fire science, right?
yep.
So now obviously you were expecting, more of a paid career.
Right.
So what are you doing with that degree now?
Right. So currently I'm a medical device sales rep. So I'm
Okay.
not using my degree. I'm not using my degree at all. I'm using my degree on the volunteer fire side.
Okay.
And it's actually interesting because coming into the volunteer fire department, I didn't have any fire experience. Like I was never on a truck. I never worked with a department, but I had a lot of medical experience because I worked on a private ambulance company out there in Chicago. So when I came back here, I was like, well, I have all this knowledge on how to do it. I've just physically never done it. So the first couple years I hit training hard. I was at the hall every single Tuesday, didn't miss a single one, made it to almost 100 calls my first year, just trying to get that experience. And now I've averaged roughly 100 calls a year out of the 300 and something that we do. So it's something I'm passionate about and definitely want to keep trying to be as available as possible. The fun thing about the volunteer side that you kind of touched on too is like the training focus. So like there's been plenty of times where I've done a training on Tuesday night and I'm like, oh, I've done that a couple times, but that really hit home. And then Wednesday morning we get toned out to a car wreck and I have to extricate a patient. So like there's a lot of times where you do the training the day before and then boom, you and 2 other guys show up on the scene. You're like, all right, now we have to do it. And we just did it last night for the first time, So a lot of it is on the job, on scene training that is irreplaceable.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's, they always say, right, experience is the best teacher, as the
Right.
fortune cookie would say. But that's cool. Now, where did you get your degree? What college?
So I went to a junior college out in Chicagoland area, Joliet Junior College. They partnered with Southern Illinois University, so
No,
I
that's
was able
different
to
from
stay local.
It's different from Joliet, the prison, I assume, right?
It's the same town, but but it's not the prison.
It's not the prison. Yeah, see, Chicago's on my list of places I've never been. I've traveled a lot, but I've actually never. I mean,
Mhm.
theoretically speaking, I've been there because I had a layover at O'Hare, so I don't know if
Oh,
that
cool.
actually counts. But
You were on
I've
the
never
ground
been,
there.
yeah, I was on the ground there, but I was never able to explore the city. So places I want to get out to. And obviously, Chicago has a rich history in the fire service. And, every October we're talking about Mrs. O'Leary's cow. So it's one of those places from the fire department side. It's like, you want to go there to see it, and to go buff in Chicago would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
so now you said you got about 20, 25 members.
Mhm.
You said earlier that you don't require Fire One, which a lot of departments don't, because like you said, just
Right.
availability of training, things like that. What we kind of do is, there's plenty of Fire One classes around us. Again, with the system
Mhm.
that is in here, there's probably, I would say, one or two going on in the region almost at the start of every season, right? There's a winter one, a spring one, a summer one, a fall one. But we like to get the people to come in and try it out first. Give them. Usually, the first thing you learn to do is like take a hydrant, like stupid things like that.
Right.
We have hydrants, by the way. We don't have, we have these magical stems that grow out of the ground that give us water.
Yeah.
We don't need tenders or tankers or ponds or
Right.
things like that.
We
But
have like 20 hydrants in our entire district, I think, that are actually in service. Other ones are just
okay,
dummy
yeah. See,
plugs.
we're hydranted like 98%, and but that's kind of, we let the member feel it out before we incur
Right.
that expense of, hey, a Fire One class around here is going for about $1,000. So to send someone to that class, you got to send them for their medical evaluation first, or their physical. You got to get them gear. You're talking a investment of several $1,000s before they go
Right.
off and take the class. So it's a good way to feel someone out. Try this first. If you don't like it, no harm, no foul. There's other things you could
Right.
do. But yeah, that's what else you got? We're closing
Right.
up we're on 22 minutes. So
Okay.
as we
To hint on that, or to hit on that fire hydrant point that you made, that most of your district is hydrant in, it took me 3.5 years to respond to a structure fire where we had a direct feed from a hydrant. Everything else was dropping in a porta tank. So
I've
that was
never
funny.
used
And it was actually
I've never gone to a fire with a porta tank.
Mhm.
And,
Oh, really?
and yeah, nope. It's not, knock on wood, right? But
Yeah,
I've
it
never been to a fire with a tank.
makes the engineer's life a little crazy, worrying about draft and then
Yeah.
discharge, and gets busy.
Well, but I thank you for your time. This was a lot of
For
fun.
sure.
And again, one of the exciting aspects of doing this is we get to talk to people from everywhere, and I can now cross Montana off my list. As I'm trying to
Yep.
get somebody from all 50 states. So thank you for your time. And
Of course.
as always, I remind everybody, if you're interested, it's thevolleychief@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. We'll set up a time to talk. Reminder, coming up in July, we have the ambulance driver 5K race. It's going to be taking place at the Bad Sons Brewery here in Derby. It's going to be a great event. It's a Wednesday night. We're going to have run your 5K, have a beer, which is complimentary for all runners over 21 and over. And it'll be a good time. So don't forget to sign up. The link is down below in the description. Captain, thank you so much. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
If you're thinking about joining a volunteer department, do it. That's the best thing you can do. It's fun.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
FD1's back in service. Commands terminated.